Here he is, Richards. Oh, that's brilliantly done. Dujuan Richards still going! That's the goal of the season from the player of the season! And Kingston College have the lead against Durnan College. Listen to them. For him. Because of him.
Dujuan Whisper Richards, the 17-year-old who has captured the imagination of Jamaican high school football fans, not just in the land of wood and water, but across the Caribbean and the diaspora. Richards put in another dazzling performance on Saturday, scoring 4 goals to lead Kingston College to a 4-2 win over Clarendon College in the semi-finals of the ISSA Champions Cup played at the National Stadium. It was truly a special performance, punctuated by 2 magical strikes. Richards has now scored 29 goals and assisted 18 in all competitions this season. Many, including his Kingston College coach Raymond Watson, have argued that he is the best player to ever grace the high school football stage in Jamaica. Now, given his undoubted quality, should the national senior coaches be looking to incorporate him into their setup? Simply put, should Dujuan Richards get a national call-up the next time the Reggae Boys are in action? To help us have this discussion, we are joined in studio by football coach and analyst Dujuan Richards, who is also CEO of ALL Sports, and on Zoom by Chris Taylor, one of our main football analysts. So let me start with you, Dujuan, because apart from the fact that you studiously cover schoolboy football, you're also a Kingston College man, so you're in his camp, so you may be able to tell us a little bit more about him than the average person knows. How good is he, and do you think that he should be called up to national duties at 17?
I agree with the sentiment, but before I go ahead, good afternoon to the listeners and to you, Lance, and to Maria. I think that he is there. He should be given the opportunity. The national team is in a rebuilding phase, so why not? You know, we think back to Kevin Pele-Wilson. He was given that opportunity. And if we're serious about building our football and getting to where we want to be for the next World Cup, which will be in our hemisphere, then certainly giving Dujuan an opportunity would be a good idea in my mind.
Yeah. Chris, let's bring you in here. The topic, how good is he? And is he good enough to be drafted into the national senior team immediately?
Well, I'm one of those that admire and like stages, Lance. I'm not necessarily... I'm not necessarily one that goes for him being put into the senior setup right away. I like the stages. He hasn't yet played under 20 football for Jamaica and so on. I'd like to see him in that atmosphere. I just think that schoolboy football and senior football is 2 different ball games. Professional football and schoolboy football, different levels, different kind of physicality, different expectations, different pressure. And yeah, you know, Dujuan mentioned Kevin Pele-Wilson, and as good as he was and so on, how well did that opportunity facilitate his career? You know, so for me, I certainly agree he's a special talent and he's had an amazing season. We have seen other amazing seasons happen before at the schoolboy level. We have seen more goals than what Dujuan has scored at the schoolboy level. But I agree that his composure in front of goal, his pace, his speed from the wide areas is something special. But I don't think we should get overly excited and get carried away. And we have to make sure that we harness the talent in the right way and progress him gradually.
Yeah. All right. Chris mentioned there, Dujuan, he likes stages. He wants to see players, you know, incrementally elevate themselves to the top. But in the Jamaican setup, there isn't that structure of football to properly give him those stages that Chris speaks of. I know he spent some time in Europe playing football last year, was it?
Yes.
How long did he spend there? And how mature do you think he is? Because I think that's what Chris is getting at, because although he's young and gifted, maturity and the ability to physically handle the highest level internationally, you know, are horses of different colours.
Absolutely. However, I've watched him play almost every single game that Kingston College has played this season. And I've seen him improve significantly in that period of time. Earlier in the season, he was trying to bully his way to goal. And in the one game that he didn't score against Jose Marti, that's what he did. He was trying to bully his way. And They went back to training with him, and he was given specific training. And if you look at the second goal on Saturday, you can see the finesse, and that is what he's added to his game. In the period of time between September and now, he has scored a number of goals that have been finessed into the back of the net. See, it's on show now.
Yeah.
He's able to recognize when he needs to use his power and when he needs to use his skill sets. And he has been coming and coming.
Yeah, Chris says all against schoolboys. So
you beat who is in front of you, Chris.
Yeah.
You can't beat who is not in front of you.
No, exactly,
Jamaica doesn't. Chris, Jamaica does not have any stages for him to play through. We don't have any under-20 football that is structured that he will be able to play in. Dujuan Richards is being groomed to become an international football player. His handlers aren't focused on schoolboy football and these things and trying to play until he's 19, like so many of our players have done and then gotten lost by the wayside.
Yeah, but
he is being prepared.
He is being groomed. I agree, he's being groomed. But are we getting too hasty? A lot of our players like to skip levels. A lot of our players believe that they can go straight out of high school into a professional setup. And I would like them to know that they're very wrong about that. And that is why we haven't seen them progress. I don't
agree with that. I don't agree with that. Because
they're being forced.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. How many of our players go into a professional setup? We don't have professional setups in Jamaica. No club in Jamaica can profess to be a professional setup. That is why he's being taken out of the country. He won't stay here. He's being taken into an international setup to ensure that he develops well.
Where is he going to be taken?
He's been taken to Europe. Genk has been muted. And
in Belgium?
Yes. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that we don't have professional football in Jamaica.
So do you think that, playing at Genk, which I agree would be a nice move in a professional setup, shouldn't that come before you get excited about putting him into a national team? Let us see how he operates in a professional setup.
We don't need to wait. We don't need to wait. We need to blood our talent early. In Jamaica, we don't, and that is a part of why our football doesn't develop locally.
I think that's a mistake. We've seen it happening in cricket. We've seen it happening in football, where we try and push players too early, and I think it works against them and actually regresses their development.
Chris, but that affects some people versus others, and based on what Dwayne is saying, and I get what he's saying, is that Whisper is of a different caliber, where his mentality is concerned. So unlike another, like, let's just take...
Where's the proof of that, Mariah? Where is the proof of that?
On the field of play. On the field of play. That is the only way you can prove yourself.
I think there are a lot of other players.
As a football player, you can't prove yourself in a classroom. You prove yourself on the field of play. I've watched this boy. Over the last 3 months, and his development has been significant.
This is the first time he's playing schoolboy football, yes?
Yes.
ManningCup.
Okay. ManningCup, yeah. Under 19, yeah.
I'm saying there are other players there in the teams who have shown maturity and so on. I don't see where you're saying his attitude and professionalism is higher than any other player. I don't see that. In fact,
I'm not saying it's. I'm not saying
that aspect of Dujuan's game that I would love to see improve, and I think this is something that needs to happen if he's certainly going to go further on the professional circuit as a winger. Is work rate, for example, when he doesn't have the ball. When he doesn't have the ball, what is his work rate like? Because now in the modern game, wingers are expected to pull their weight as well. Gone are the days of and I'm sorry to mention this, but the Messi type players where you're playing as a regular number 10 and you wait for the ball to come to you. Gone are those days. Coaches are not interested in players like that anymore. Now, even as a winger, you have to put in your work defensively and so on as well. And that is an aspect of Dujuan's game, which I agree, when he's on the ball, he's probably the best around. But when he's not on the ball, what is his work ethic like? And I'm saying going into a professional setup or playing against adults, that is an aspect of his game that has to be there as well. But Chris, and that is why I'm saying I rather take it in increments.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying that he's improving and he's being coached. If you look at the goals that he scored on Saturday, beginning with the first one, he along with his teammate, was able to win the ball back in the KC half, something he never did up until Saturday. Every single aspect of his game is being worked on. He helped to win that ball, and then he took it from inside the KC half
When he was given the ball, the ball was passed to him.
He helped to win it. Watch back the play. And the third goal, he won the ball off of the defender. All aspects of his game have been improving. Every single aspect. I've watched him closely. Every single aspect of his game has continued to improve.
I'm not saying that he's not improving. I'm agreeing that he's improving. And those 2 goals that I saw, I think, are the 2 best goals of the season. So let me just state that right away. Yeah. However, we're talking about the national senior team we're talking about.
Chris,
I agree that his performances at the schoolboy level are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right? Or those 2 goals especially are great. And he's had a wonder season.
Yes, but Chris,
right? He's contributed. Sorry, Lance.
Yeah, Chris, I think the point is being made, though, that one of the benefits of him being brought into the national senior program now is that there is a highly rated international coach now in charge of the Reggae Boys. So wouldn't that be an opportunity to bring him into that setup and give him the kind of coaching that could develop some of the same things that you are saying that we are not sure if he has?
And I'm saying that that very same coach might ask, why has he not played under 17? Why has he not played under 20 for Jamaica? Why is he not in those camps as well? And I think that would be a valid question. In other words, coaches of a certain level like to see stages as well.
Yeah, but Chris, we're talking about what if he gets the opportunity? We're not saying that we are pushing him into it. What if the coach agrees that, this youngster needs to come into the setup? He'll fit in well. It'll be good to have him play around some of the top players, and it would benefit him versus him being in a different setup where he's just dominating the schoolboy footballers.
I'm not saying that the current coach might not be interested in talking with him, seeing him, having a look at his talent or so on. I am just saying, let us not get overly excited and force someone who is not ready or matured yet enough into a senior team setup where that pressure and forum is very different. And I think there needs to be an appreciation for professional level sport versus schoolboy level. And I think I hear this too much at the schoolboy level, where players, coaches, and so on feel that these youngsters are ready to go pro. And how often do we see that in any sport, that a youngster comes out of high school into the professional setup right away? How often do we see that successfully done?
But that's the beauty of being a coach.
And that is my argument.
That's the beauty of being a coach, because you deal with different players at different levels. So Whisper coming into the setup would not be put under the amount of pressure like the other players, because he'd be treated as the youngster coming into the setup.
Really? Well, I would like to tell you that I believe that a coach of a national team is there to get results as well and produce. So to say that he would be under no pressure or looked at differently, he's coming into a national team setup. He's coming there to make the team perform and produce.
Yeah, but Chris,
that is the expectation.
Yeah, the other side of the equation, though, is that the next World Cup cycle for the Jamaica Reggae Boys would be preparing for the 2026 World Cup. So that's some years down the road. And the feeling is that based on the undisputed quality of this 17-year-old, him being into a national setup now and getting groomed is something that would benefit not only him as a developing player, but the Reggae Boys for the future. And that is where it's at. So I'm thinking that incorporating him into a national program now may not necessarily mean you're putting him into the deep end immediately. It is a part of his growth. And it could be incremental in getting him to be a higher quality player 3 years from now.
But Lance, that is why they also have stages. And I'm saying to you that part of getting into a national senior team, that is why they have the under 17 and the under 20 or even academies, to harness the talent at a young stage and develop it so that once you go into the senior team, you are ready to set the place on fire right away. No, I'm saying yes, of course. Going into a senior team to rub shoulders with better players, more advanced players, of course there's benefits in that. But I'm sure that the senior team coach would also be saying, well, we also need to integrate him in the junior setups as well, the national team setups as well, to prepare him for that bigger stage. Now, if he's going to Genk and so on overseas, which is a professional setup where he will be, that is a part of grooming as well. But let us not try and skip all those stages. That's all I'm saying.
Dwayne, do you think that he can do both?
Even if he goes and rubs shoulders in the senior team I would like to see the other stages of him developed as well.
I don't think that is being overlooked, though, Dwayne. I don't think people are suggesting that he shouldn't play under 17 and under 20 and just put him into the national senior program. I think it would be a given that because of his age, he would fit into an under 20 program at the moment. But the general feeling that is that his quality is so phenomenal at the moment, based on what we are seeing, that you don't want to undercook what he has to offer.
I don't think anybody's suggesting that Whisper shouldn't play youth football.
Yes.
What is being suggested is that he's good enough to play youth football and senior football. We don't have any under 17 and under 20 football that we're playing on a regular basis for us to say this is how we're going to develop our youth players. We don't have it. Simply put, our youth football is high school football. That is the reality of Jamaica's football. Our youth football is high school football. We don't have any programs that we have playing and competition that we are playing even regionally on a regular basis to develop our players. Yeah. So we need to look beyond just thinking that if we put him in the setup, it will take away from any form of development for him.
Yeah, Chris, let me ask you a question, though, because I think the reason why this narrative is being triggered is because of how highly rated the young man is, because we heard his coach suggesting that he's the best schoolboy forward he has ever seen. So this is not a normal situation. And I think your response, for the most part, is addressing your general attitude to schoolboy stars being, overrated or being pushed into levels that they may not be ready for. But so let me go back now. Do you think he is as good as people are saying he is? Because that is part of the reason why we're getting this narrative that he needs to be fast-tracked into the senior program.
I think for his level, he's above the rest that we're seeing there, certainly in terms of his.
Well, that's obvious,
ability.
Chris. I'm saying that's obvious. We have established that and we accept that. It is clear that he's above that level.
I question right now his ability to perform at the senior team level. I don't know if physically he is ready for that stage yet. And that's my personal opinion. I don't know if he will be able to combat with the big boys, with the adult footballers at this stage. I just don't think he's just turned 17. I have not seen enough of that style of play. That I have not seen enough of that in schoolboy football to say, yes, he has skills, but will he be able to portray them against the adult form?
Yeah, I think what Chris is saying is a reasonable position, that although it is obvious that he is good and better than the current crop of players and better than schoolboy level for sure, that by itself does not translate into him being completely ready for international football. You've said a few times doing that.
How do you know?
We don't know.
We have to give him
but that's what I'm saying.
You can
Chris,
only answer the question by allowing him to
I think
play.
that's part of what Chris is saying, that he doesn't know. People are behaving as if they know. Chris is saying he doesn't know.
Nobody will know unless he's given an opportunity.
Yes.
And I'm saying we have nothing on the line but if we allow him to play over the next 12 months, because we have nothing to play for over the next 12 months except to give boys an opportunity to play.
Yes.
So if we're going to give boys an opportunity to play, give him an opportunity to play. Let's see where he is. Because the reality of the situation is that we cannot miss the next World Cup. And we need to have homegrown talent in the next World Cup. The idea of constantly going overseas to find players is disheartening to those who are here. Yeah. We need to give them the opportunity. We absolutely need to give them the opportunity. If the talent is here and we can develop a 17-year-old to be ready at 21, we should look at that opportunity.
Chris, do you agree with Dwayne's reasoning, as in, we have nothing much to lose? There are more advantages to giving him the opportunity versus keeping him out and, just never knowing?
It may sound rough for me to say this, but I don't think there's ever been a problem with the talent, whether homegrown or overseas. I think the problem has been in terms of the coaches getting the talent to work together, finding the best strategies and so on to get that chemistry going. I think a lot of times the persons just think that you throw in a Mikel Antonio, you throw in a Leon Bailey, and you throw in these great talents from overseas, and they will just win matches for you and get it done. But football is not quite like that, and getting players to integrate well, building strategies, working out opponents and the best ways to get people to play together is a part that I don't think Jamaica have developed enough, and that comes down to the coaching. Now, yes, Dujuan Richards is a special talent. Do we have the body of coaches and management to get this working, to get him to perform his best at that senior level? And I think that has been a problem generally for the talent we have had here. Dujuan Richards is just one of many talents. You understand? And that is where I find that we have not integrated the talent in the right ways. And I think that comes down to the coaching, I'm sad to say.
All right, Chris, we're going to leave it there. There will be a lot of time to discuss this, and the youngster obviously has a bright future ahead of him. I take the point that you're making, even though there is a feeling from Dwayne here that he is confident that the youngster can rise to that occasion. But again, only time will tell, because I understand your skepticism, because we've seen many schoolboy stars in the past not transition into, successful international players at the highest level. So I think your point is taken, but I think it's because of the obvious phenomenal talent of this young man that people are looking beyond that and having confidence that he may be able to do it. But we'll talk again, Chris, for sure.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, Chris Taylor. So, Chris, expressing doubt that the coaching, can, get players like him to the level that they need to get to. Hal Grimson, the new Jamaica Reggae Boys coach, is now on board. And I guess this is part of his mandate to develop some of the quality players. But Dwayne, great to have you on the SportsMax Zone talking about this.
It's always a pleasure.
And all the best to Dujuan and Kingston College in the Champions Cup, because the ManningCup has gone, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Good luck.
That's the only thing left for them to play for.
Okay, break time. Back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.